What if your fake rental girlfriend turns out better than your real one? This is Kazuya Kinoshita, a college student who previously had a girlfriend that was also his first love, but after dating for only 1 month, she dumped him because she already liked someone else. After the breakup, Kazuya decides to rent a girlfriend through a dating app. That is how he meets Mizuhara Chizuru, a sweet and high-class girlfriend. On their first date, they decide to go to the aquarium, and she looks happy to be with Kazuya. When they return home, she suddenly takes his hand in hers, and he enjoys the feeling. So they split their way back home, but Kazuya keeps thinking about her hand in his. Later, he finds out that many of the reviews in the app describe the same experience, and he realizes it is all part of her trick. When Kazuya checks his bank account, he recalls his father's message, warning him not to waste money. Because of that, he decides to rent Chizuru again and directly asks if her rental job makes her feel empty inside. She answers that it doesn't, because she loves her job. Back at the aquarium, when Chizuru acts like a cute girlfriend, Kazuya suddenly calls her fake and unprofessional in public. So she quickly drags him away, reminding him that she's only a rental girlfriend. She also gets upset because he once gave her a 1-star review, which lowered her rank by 0.3 points. While she asks him to continue their rental date, Kazuya suddenly gets a phone call and finds out that his grandmother has collapsed. He rushes to the hospital, and Chizuru follows him. His family is surprised when he introduces Chizuru as his new girlfriend, and she decides to play along with the lie. After hearing the good news about her grandson, Kazuya's grandmother rushes out to tell her friends about his girlfriend. Chizuru then panics when she realizes that her own grandmother is also staying at the hospital. They hide in an empty room, and when Kazuya's grandmother comes in, they hide under the blanket, feeling awkward. Once she leaves, Chizuru immediately kicks him out of the bed, and her grandmother hears the noise, surprising them both. To avoid trouble, Kazuya tries to tell the truth, but Chizuru quickly stops him and pretends they are a couple. After that, Chizuru admits it was her fault for hiding her job, and she wants to tell her family that her relationship with Kazuya is over. Meanwhile, Kazuya tells her that his grandmother wants him to find a good girlfriend before she dies, so he wants to grant her a wish. When he plans to introduce his ex-girlfriend, she refuses and dumps him right away. In the end, they decide to end their fake relationship and return to their normal lives and part ways. But fate has other plans when Kazuya unexpectedly runs into Chizuru at their university. This marks the beginning of a unique relationship between a lonely boy and his rental girlfriend. They stare at each other awkwardly until Chizuru quickly runs away, leaving Kazuya behind. As he walks to his class, she suddenly pulls him into a storage room and warns him not to tell anyone about her rental job. Kazuya promises to keep it a secret. The next morning, they are surprised to find out they live in the same apartment building, right next door to each other. Soon after, Kazuya gets a call from his grandmother, saying she will visit his apartment and wants to see Chizuru there. Feeling panicked, he begs Chizuru to act as his girlfriend again, but she says no. When his grandmother arrives and asks about Chizuru, Kazuya pretends to make a phone call, but actually runs to Chizuru's place to beg her, even offering double pay. But she still kicks him out. So Kazuya goes back to his apartment and tries to tell his grandma the truth, but before he can, she already assumes he and Chizuru have broken up, which makes her sad. However, she is still grateful when Kazuya introduces Chizuru to her. Later, when Chizuru shows up with her homemade food, his grandmother happily runs to her and hugs her. Kazuya thanks her for saving him. Before she leaves, she tells Kazuya to visit her every Wednesday and to bring Chizuru with him. To keep up the lie, Kazuya pays Chizuru to be his rental girlfriend again next week, and Chizuru reminds him that he can only rent on Wednesday for 1 hour to visit his grandma. The next day, Kazuya unexpectedly meets Mami, his ex-girlfriend, for the first time since their breakup. At that moment, his best friends, Kibei and Kuri, show up and tell him to stop thinking about her. Later, Kazuya goes with Chizuru to visit his grandmother at the hospital. On their way home, they accidentally bump into Kibei and Kuri, who don't recognize Chizuru and ask who she is. They slap Kazuya's face and tell him to open his eyes because she's an S-rank beauty. To keep up the appearances, Kazuya introduces her as his new girlfriend, leaving them shocked. They quickly apologize and invite the couple to a drinking party to celebrate. To his surprise, Mami also shows up at the party and starts insulting Kazuya in front of everyone. But this time, Chizuru stands up for him and defends her boyfriend, while Mami turns to Kazuya for support. But instead of backing up Chizuru, Kazuya defends Mami, which upsets Chizuru and makes her leave the party early. After the party, Kazuya walks home alone, and Mami suddenly appears to talk to him. On their way back home, she asks him to stop by her house. Kazuya feels confused and asks about her new boyfriend, but she admits she lied because she was jealous of his new girlfriend. She then says her brother is at home, so they cannot go there, which makes him hurt inside. When Mami starts talking badly about Chizuru, Kazuya defends her and says she isn't like that, then quickly leaves Mami behind. Later, when Kazuya arrives at his apartment, he apologizes to Chizuru for what happened at the party, but she says it is fine because she is just his rental girlfriend. She tells him he can keep renting her if it helps him move on, and Kazuya wants to hug her, but instead, he gets a shoe in the face. A few days later, Kazuya and his friends go to the beach for the weekend. Kibei asks why Chizuru didn't come, and Kazuya lies that it was too short notice for her. When they arrive, Mami approaches Kazuya and apologizes for talking badly about him and Chizuru the other night. She then tries to remind him of their happy moments when they were dating, because now she feels jealous of his girlfriend. Kazuya wants to tell her the truth that Chizuru was only a rental girlfriend, but before he can, Chizuru suddenly shows up and surprises him. Her friends know her as Ichinose, while Kazuya sees her as Chizuru wearing glasses. As they go shopping together, Kazuya asks her why she's at the beach and she tells that her friends invite her. He then tells Chizuru that his relationship with Mami is going well, and wonders if she will feel jealous. This makes Chizuru angry, and Mami suddenly notices them from outside. They both become panicked, and Kazuya steps outside to cover for Chizuru. She asks if someone else is inside with him, but he denies it. She doesn't believe him and tries to open the door, and Chizuru walks out with a different look. Kuri and Kibei suddenly arrive, and they recognize her as Chizuru, not Ichinose. Kibei asks why Kazuya said that Chizuru wasn't coming, but Kazuya tells him it was a surprise. They then ask what they were doing at the toilet together, and assume something happened, but Kazuya quickly denies it. While they are hanging out, Kazuya's friends ask how they first met, and he quickly makes up a fake story for her. Later, when Kazuya goes swimming alone, Mami asks for his help to find her missing bracelet. She accidentally slips on a rock and falls into Kazuya, and then she suddenly kisses him. While they are kissing, Kazuya recalls how he first met Mami and how he confessed his love to her. After the kiss, Mami apologizes for losing control and asks him to act normal in front of their friends. When they return, Kazuya gets a call from his grandmother, who tells him that she will be discharged from the hospital and can see Chizuru anytime. Back at the table, Kazuya finally tells his friends that he and Chizuru are planning to break up, and she confirms it. Kibei gets angry, punches Kazuya in the face, and says he is disappointed that Kazuya chose his ex over his girlfriend. Kazuya punches him back and says Kibei has no idea how much he loved Mami and how much it hurt when she dumped him. As Kazuya walks away, Chizuru tells him he did nothing wrong because they don't know the truth. He then says that both of their grandmothers will be discharged next week, so they decide to end their fake relationship. Before they say goodbye, Chizuru thanks him for renting her and tells him to treasure the time they had together. When Chizuru's friend is looking for her, she meets Kibei, who asks her to talk. While Kazuya walks back to the beach, he sees Chizuru and Kibei, so he quietly hides to listen. Kibei starts by saying he has known Kazuya since they were kids and knows he is an idiot who always needs help. He begs Chizuru to give him another chance because Kazuya is a good guy. He then gives her 2 ferry tickets and asks her to fix their relationship, which makes Kazuya tear up. A dog then barks at him, and they realize he was listening. Kibei then leaves them alone to talk. Chizuru gives his ferry ticket and says she can't refuse after hearing him, so she agrees that they will ride on the ferry and tell everyone that they talked, and chose to break up instead. On the ferry, Chizuru starts to feel sick and sits inside. Kazuya decides that after the ferry ride, he will ask Mami out again. He also tells Chizuru that he won't rent her anymore and promises not to talk to her at the college. Mami then calls him and says she is waiting at the hotel pool, asking him to come. Kazuya agrees but tells her he needs at least 15 minutes to come. Meanwhile, Chizuru feels worse and goes outside. When the ferry shakes, she falls overboard into the water. After hearing the news from other passengers, Kazuya drops his phone and jumps into the water to save her. Kazuya quickly swims to Chizuru and grabs her hand. She later wakes up on the shore and sees him lying unconscious, which makes her panic. While doing the chest compressions, she scolds him for saving her so recklessly, even though she is only a rental girlfriend. Not willing to give up, she tries to give him CPR, and ends up giving him mouth-to-mouth, which finally wakes him up. Kazuya is shocked that he got a kiss from an S-class girlfriend like Chizuru. Soon after, the Coast Guard finds them and scolds them for being reckless. As Chizuru is taken to the hospital, Kazuya thanks her for saving his life, but she brushes it off and pretends to be his girlfriend. After being discharged from the hospital, Kazuya's friends give him a ride home. As they drop him off, Kazuya tells Kibei that he and Chizuru are still breaking up. He punches him in the face again, telling him to stay with Chizuru since she saved his life, or he will stay a virgin forever. Back at home, while taking care of his fish, Kazuya starts to realize his feelings for Chizuru are much stronger than he thought. A few days later, Kazuya and his family go to a hot spring resort to celebrate his grandmother's recovery. When they arrive, his grandmother reveals that Chizuru's grandmother is also joining them. She forces Kazuya into a different room so she can share a room with Chizuru's grandmother. When Kazuya enters his room, he is surprised to see Chizuru in the same room as him, and she realizes that their grandmothers planned this. They beg to switch rooms, but their grandmothers refuse, saying dinner was already ordered for the two of them and it would be too much trouble to change. When Chizuru tells them that she hasn't done anything with Kazuya yet, they encourage her to use this chance, which embarrasses both of them. Back in the room, Chizuru decides to enjoy the trip and goes to the hot spring, where she unexpectedly meets Kazuya's grandmother. While showering, Chizuru wonders what she will think if she is lying this whole time, but his grandmother says that everyone tells small lies, and she will still love her even if she is an alien. When Chizuru returns to her room, she tells him to enjoy their time together. When Kazuya accidentally drinks soy sauce, Chizuru laughs, realizing how dumb he can be. That is the first time that Kazuya sees her laughing like a normal girl. Before going to bed, Kazuya gets ready to sleep in the bathroom, but Chizuru tells him it's okay to sleep beside her, leaving him speechless. Kazuya starts to imagine that she finally wants to cross the line, but when she feels his lust, she quickly kicks him away. When they turn off the lights, Kazuya suddenly asks Chizuru if he can keep renting her and not tell their grandmas that they broke up. Chizuru turns around and tells him that he can rent her for a little longer. However, she reminds him that they can't lie to their grandmas forever, so she will help him find a real girlfriend. The next day, Kazuya tells his friends that he and Chizuru are still dating, which makes mommy feel unhappy. After renting Chizuru again, Kazuya and Chizuru meet Kori, who says that he also has a girlfriend. He suddenly sets up a double date for next Saturday. Kazuya tries to stop him, but Kori already runs away. On his way back to his apartment, Kazuya accidentally bumps into a cute girl and falls to the ground. She calls him a pervert and quickly leaves right away, making him wonder who she is. When the day of the double date comes, Kazuya still can't believe that his loser friend has a girlfriend. Kori then introduces her as Ruka, who turns out to be the same girl that Kazuya bumped earlier. They all go rock climbing, and Chizuru turns out to be good at it, while Kazuya keeps falling down. Later, when Chizuru and Ruka are alone, Ruka asks if she is a rental girlfriend, which Chizuru denies. When Kori leaves for the bathroom, Chizuru tries again to convince Ruka that they are really dating, but Ruka tells them to prove it with a kiss. With no other choice, Chizuru pulls Kazuya close, puts her hand between their lips, and covers their faces with her phone. But Ruka is not convinced since she didn't see it clearly. After the double date ends, Kazuya walks with Kori and Ruka, trying to make sure she doesn't tell him the truth. At the train station, Ruka says goodbye, and Kori leaves to buy her some gifts. Kazuya still worries that Ruka will reveal their secret, so he follows her. But then, Ruka catches him and says that she already knew Chizuru was a rental girlfriend. Kazuya tries to deny it, but when she tries to leave, he accidentally touches her melon, and she hits him with her bag. He keeps following her, begging her not to reveal that Chizuru is a rental girlfriend. Ruka gets annoyed and runs away, but as she tries to dodge an old woman, she loses her balance and almost falls down the stairs. Kazuya quickly catches her, and they both fall, but he manages to soften the impact. He still begs her not to tell anyone, saying he doesn't care about himself, but it will cause problems for Chizuru. Ruka then admits that she is also a rental girlfriend, which surprises him. Later, Kazuya tells Chizuru about this, and she realizes how Ruka found out. She even finds out the agency where Ruka works for. They decide to keep an eye on her, since they don't know if she will stay quiet. While Kazuya waits for Kori at his college, Ruka suddenly shows up, saying she came to see him. When Kazuya notices Kori arriving, he and Ruka quickly run and hide inside a classroom. Ruka asks him to hug her to confirm something, but then Kori comes in, so they hide under a desk. While they hug under it, her phone suddenly makes a sound, and Kori hears it. Kori finds them hiding, and Ruka quickly stands up and thanks him for renting her, leaving him speechless and running away in embarrassment. When Kazuya goes home and tells Chizuru what happened, he is surprised to see Ruka suddenly show up. After finding out that Chizuru is his neighbor, Ruka gets frustrated and wonders how close they really are. She then promises not to tell anyone about their fake relationship, if Kazuya agrees to go out with her. When the three of them gather inside his apartment, Kazuya asks Ruka to wait outside so he can speak to Chizuru first. When they are alone, Chizuru asks Kazuya if he likes Ruka, but he denies it, saying he doesn't want to hurt Kori's feelings. So he asks Chizuru to distract Ruka while he goes to tell Kori the truth. As he tries to escape through the balcony, Ruka suddenly comes back in and catches him, causing him to fall. Kazuya tries to run away, but Ruka holds on tightly, refusing to let him go. They both fall to the ground, and Kazuya quickly apologizes, saying he cannot hurt Kori's feelings, because deep down, he actually loves Chizuru. Hearing this, Ruka bursts into tears because he won't even give her a chance. As she cries, Chizuru steps in and pulls Kazuya aside, telling him to go out with Ruka. It is then revealed that Ruka has a medical condition, a low heart rate, which makes her feelings even more emotional. Out of all the people she has dated, Kazuya is the first one who has ever made her heart race. A few weeks later, Kazuya spends more time with Ruka, but he finds it hard to keep up because she always wants him to reply to her messages. Because of this, he decides to stay away from Ruka for a while. Kazuya begins to miss Chizuru, but then he finds out she is already booked for Christmas. The next day, when he comes out of the bank, he sees Chizuru all dressed up and realizes she is meeting a boy. At first, he thinks the boy is just a client, but then he worries that the boy could be her real boyfriend. Feeling uneasy, he secretly follows them and learns that the boy's name is Umi. He ends up following them throughout the day, until he overhears that they will go to Umi's place. He decides to stop following her and realizes he has lost her. Kazuya goes to the restroom, and he suddenly runs into Umi. When Yumi answers his phone, Kazuya hears him talking with someone about Chizuru, saying things about her measurements and her attractive voice. This shocks Kazuya and makes him believe that Umi is planning to sell Chizuru. Later, in front of a Christmas tree, Umi leans close to Chizuru as if he's about to kiss her, and Kazuya accidentally interrupts them. Chizuru asks why he is there, and he tells her that he came to stop them from kissing. Chizuru explains that Umi was only fixing her earring. Kazuya then asks if they are dating, but she reveals she is an actress and has been practicing with Umi, who is a professional actor. Kazuya still wonders about the phone call in the restroom, but Umi explains that he was actually trying to recommend Chizuru to a director he knows. Kazuya finally realizes that he misunderstood everything. After Umi leaves, Kazuya admits that he had been following them from the start and wanted to stop, but he couldn't because he thought Umi might be a bad guy. As Kazuya starts to feel guilty, Chizuru suddenly gives him a Christmas gift, which is a phone case. Since his phone was broken because of her, she explains it's not really a gift, but as a token of apology. Kazuya gets emotional and starts crying because it's the first time a girl has given him something for Christmas. Kazuya is really excited with his new phone case and thinks he is the only one who got a gift from a rental girlfriend. But when he checks the reviews, he finds out that Chizuru also gave gifts to her other client. The next day, he confronts Chizuru about it, but she explains that giving gifts is normal because she is acting as a girlfriend. She then asks him if he has feelings for her, but he quickly denies it. While heading home, they suddenly bump into Ruka, who is annoyed that Kazuya went out with Chizuru. She tells him to cancel his date with Chizuru and go with her instead. Before the date begins, Ruka covers Kazuya's eyes with a blindfold, making him wonder where she is taking him. When he takes it off, he realizes that they are in a love hotel. Ruka asks him to explain everything about his relationship with Chizuru. After he explains everything, Ruka slaps him and says he cannot keep lying forever. She tells him to introduce her as his real girlfriend, so he won't need Chizuru anymore. Kazuya says it is not that simple because his grandmother really likes Chizuru. When Ruka tries to seduce him, Kazuya excuses himself to the bathroom, but while he is gone, Ruka secretly looks at his phone. On New Year's Day, Kazuya takes Chizuru to have lunch with his family. But Ruka suddenly shows up and says she will join them, which makes them panic. When his grandmother asks how they know each other, Kazuya quickly says that Ruka is Chizuru's friend, but Ruka claims she is his girlfriend. His grandmother asks everyone to go inside, but then pulls Kazuya aside and starts hitting him for cheating on Chizuru and dating both girls at the same time. Kazuya defends himself, saying Ruka is a pathological liar, and his grandmother believes him. Meanwhile, Ruka tells Chizuru that they can't keep lying forever, but Chizuru says it's not that simple. Ruka then grabs Chizuru's melon and insists that she really likes Kazuya. Chizuru denies it, so Ruka tells her to step aside because she is serious about him. As they are having lunch together, Ruka notices how awkward Kazuya's family looks, and she guesses it is because of him. She calls him out to talk, and Kazuya's parents feel relieved, telling Chizuru she is kind for putting up with Ruka. Later, Ruka scolds Kazuya for telling his grandmother that she is a liar, which makes her upset. When they go to the shrine, Ruka takes the chance to separate Kazuya's grandmother from the others and tries to reveal the truth about Chizuru. But before she can say it, his grandmother asks about Chizuru, like what she likes and what she dislikes. Ruka realizes that his grandmother doesn't want just any girlfriend for Kazuya, but she wants Chizuru herself to be part of the family. Chizuru then arrives, worried that Ruka might reveal the truth. As they return to the group, she tells Kazuya that everything is fine, which makes him feel relieved. Kazuya thanks Ruka for not telling the truth and apologizes for calling her a liar. Ruka says it was not the right time to reveal it, but she won't give up on him. The next day, Ruka starts working at the same place as Kazuya, as it's free from Chizuru. As he thinks his day can't get any worse, Kibei and his friends arrive at his workplace and make fun of him. Kibei tells Kazuya that Kuri has been acting strange, tweeting about heartbreak on his private account. Kazuya asks Ruka to do something about Kuri, but she doesn't care because she only thinks about him. Later that night, Kazuya still feels worried about Kuri, thinking he might stay virgin forever. So he comes up with an idea, and goes to Chizuru's apartment to ask for her help. The next day, he sets up a meeting with Kuri, but instead of Kazuya, Chizuru suddenly shows up and introduces herself as her rental girlfriend. Kuri can't believe it and checks online, confirming that she is indeed a rental girlfriend. Chizuru then takes his hand and runs together with him, suggesting they spend their date at the amusement park. While spending time with her, Kuri starts to enjoy himself, and feels like Chizuru is the perfect dream girlfriend. He tells her that he is such a loser for renting a girlfriend, but she explains that rental girlfriend can help a loser guy like him to gain more experience on dating. After their time together, Kuri thanks her for the date and offers to pay, but she says it has already been taken care of. He then notices Kazuya watching from the bushes, and Chizuru leaves them to talk. Kazuya apologizes to Kuri for lying about having a real girlfriend, but Kuri laughs at him and says he feels relieved that Kazuya is still a loser like him. Since the date is not over, Kazuya quickly walks away, and Chizuru asks Kuri to walk her to the train station.
Before leaving, Kuri asks if she has ever fallen in love with a client.
She remembers her talk with Kazuya and how he wanted to cheer up his friend, so she avoids giving a clear answer.
This makes Kuri think she might already have feelings for Kazuya.
Later that night, Chizuru asks Kazuya to meet her at the balcony, making him think that she finally wants to go out with him. As he goes outside, he finds Chizuru already waiting, asking him to rent a shy girl from her agency who has received many complaints from clients. So she asks to help her practice, and Kazuya agrees. She then asks how things going with Mami, but Kazuya says he doesn't have any feelings for her anymore as she doesn't care about him. So Chizuru promises that she will stay by his side until he can finally move on from his ex-girlfriend. The next day, Kazuya meets Sumi, who is shy and hides behind the wall. As they start walking together, Mami happens to pass by and notices Kazuya with his new girlfriend. When they go for coffee, he realizes how shy and introvert she is, since she doesn't say anything at all. He then takes her bowling, but because it is her first time, she slips and falls on the floor. However, she surprisingly gets her first strike. Kazuya goes to get some drinks, but when he comes back, he sees 3 thugs bothering Sumi. He doesn't want to get into a fight, but because he doesn't want to disappoint Chizuru, he steps in to save her. He grabs her hand and takes her away, and the thugs start badmouthing about him. Hearing that, Sumi apologizes that he got badmouthed, but Kazuya says they were just jealous, and he is already used to it. They continue trying different activities, and Sumi keeps pushing herself really hard. They finally go roller skating, but she falls again. Kazuya tries to catch her, but he also slips and ends up very close to her. His nose suddenly bleeds, so he goes to wash himself. But as he returns, he is shocked to see Mami talking with Sumi. At that moment, Sumi grabs Kazuya and continues acting as his girlfriend, which only makes the situation worse.
Mami asks if she can have a few minutes to talk with him, and Sumi steps away.
Mami tells him that he has really changed, and is now dating with another cute girl. Before leaving, she promises that she will not tell Chizuru about this.
As the date ends, Sumi thanks Kazuya for the fun time and quickly runs away.
Kazuya finds it very cute and wonders if he should rent her again, but then he remembers that all his problems started like that. Meanwhile, Mami can't stop thinking about Kazuya, feeling surprised that a loser boy like him is with a cute girl like Sumi. She decides to search for more information about her, but when she searches Sumi's name, she finds out that Sumi is a rental girlfriend. Later that night, Chizuru calls Kazuya to the balcony and thanks him for taking Sumi out, saying she really enjoyed her time. Chizuru then explains that she considers leaving her rental girlfriend job as the director that Omi spoke to was interested in her and will give her a role. Kazuya is sad to hear that, but thanks her for everything she had done for him.
The next day, Chizuru has a date with a customer named Maya.
However, the customer turns out to be Mami.
Meanwhile, Ruka invites Kazuya to go on a date, and he agrees.
As they spend time together, he notices that she is cheerful, but also very possessive. Later at work, just as Kazuya is about to ask her to be his girlfriend, he accidentally sees Mami and Chizuru going into one of the rooms. Inside the room, Mami tries to pay Chizuru, but Chizuru refuses and asks how Mami knows about her rental job.
Mami simply ignores the question and asks Chizuru to sing for her.
At the same time, Kazuya realizes that Mami already knows the truth about his relationship with Chizuru. As soon as they leave, he pretends to feel sick so he can follow them.
When he finally finds them, Mami promises Chizuru that she won't tell anybody about her job.
Chizuru then confronts Mami about her feelings for Kazuya, because she believes Mami still likes him. Mami then asks Chizuru back about her own feelings for Kazuya, who has been renting a girlfriend for a year.
Chizuru boldly declares that Kazuya is her boyfriend, but Mami refuses to believe her.
As Mami gets ready to leave, Chizuru holds her hand, and asks her to give Kazuya another chance, saying that he can make her happy. But when Mami sees Kazuya hiding nearby, she refuses to answer and walks away, leaving Chizuru behind. Kazuya feels heartbroken, but he is touched by Chizuru's kindness toward his feelings. Later that night, as Chizuru walks past him, Kazuya thanks her for standing up for him. Chizuru apologizes for not being able to find him a girlfriend, but Kazuya shocks her by saying that he actually wants her. When Chizuru asks what he means, Kazuya nervously explains that he only wants her as a rental girlfriend.
To avoid answering, he quickly runs back into his apartment. Inside her room, Chizuru can't stop thinking about Kazuya's words, unsure if he was serious or not. The next day, Kazuya thinks about telling his grandma that he and Chizuru already broke up, but he can't find the courage to do it. He then remembers that Chizuru will be acting in a play, so he goes to the theater to watch her. When he sees in the pamphlet that she will be singing and dancing, he gets so excited that the receptionist thinks he is a weirdo and almost calls security. After he goes inside to find his seat, Kazuya feels safe and believes the theater is big enough that Chizuru won't notice him. When the play begins, Kazuya expects Chizuru to play the princess, but instead Shirori takes that role. Umi suddenly appears on stage as the shogun, which surprises him.
When the shogun calls for his loyal Kunoichi Nene, Chizuru steps onto the stage.
Kazuya is stunned and can't take his eyes off her. As Chizuru delivers her lines and tells jokes, the audience starts to laugh.
He realizes that Chizuru's acting skill is impressive, and it captures everyone's attention. When her character dies, the whole theater cries with her. Kazuya knows the audience sees Chizuru as the true star of the show. When the play ends, the producer congratulates Chizuru for her amazing performance, and she feels proud that it went perfectly. However, she overhears Shirori talking with a famous director, and the two girls mention that Shirori already knew him since grade school. Chizuru feels heartbroken, thinking all her hard work was for nothing. On his way home, Kazuya accidentally bumps into Chizuru, and she notices he has the pamphlet from her play. Kazuya quickly tells her that her performance was incredible and that the director must have noticed her, so he believes she will finally quit being a rental girlfriend. Chizuru then tells him the truth that she did not get the job. She feels untalented and says all her time and money are wasted because she is still far from her dream. Kazuya quickly disagrees and promises to keep renting her week after week. He insists that she does have talent, because she can act as the perfect girlfriend and was the best performer on stage. He admits he can't help her in other ways, but he can keep supporting her so she won't give up on her dream. People nearby start gossiping about them, so Chizuru steps on his foot, tells him she doesn't need his help, and runs away from him. Back at home, Chizuru receives a call from Shirori, who thanks her for warming up the audience, which made her performance much easier. After the call, Chizuru breaks down in tears, blaming herself for being a failure. Then her phone buzzes, showing multiple rental girlfriend requests from Kazuya. She can't stop smiling and calls him an idiot for making so many reservations. Back at work, Kazuya asks his manager how to get a girl who is way out of his league. His manager recalls that his wife used to be a flight attendant, and he would travel everywhere just to impress her, even to places he had no interest in. After work, Kazuya goes on another date with Chizuru, and they stop to the cafe nearby. Before Kazuya can pay her, Chizuru stops him and says that even though she likes his money, but renting her every single week is too much. She also tells him that mommy asked her to stop seeing him, and she doesn't want Ruka to notice them together too often. Kazuya remembers when he asked Ruka to let him keep renting Chizuru to support her dream of becoming an actress. Ruka refused at first, but Kazuya convinced her. In the end, Ruka agreed on one condition: he has to take her to watch Chizuru's play, so she can judge for herself how good Chizuru's acting really is. When they finish eating, Kazuya asks Chizuru to be her true self while they are dating. Chizuru denies it, saying it's for her acting career and it would be pointless if she didn't act like his ideal girlfriend. Kazuya tells her that her real self is already his ideal girlfriend. Feeling embarrassed, Chizuru decides to act more natural for once, while reminding herself that the customer is always the king. As they end their date and part ways, Kazuya realizes that renting her every week makes him look too clingy. He knows he is just her client, and the gap between them won't close anytime soon. Chizuru suddenly turns around and says her work time is over, so she asks him if he's free. She takes him to a batting center, and Kazuya can't take his eyes off her. He feels excited to be with her, and wonders if it counts as a date. He asks if she often comes here, and she tells him that she usually comes when she's in a bad mood, then quickly reminds him that this isn't a date, which makes him disappointed. Kazuya asks if it's okay for them to hang out casually like this, and Chizuru says it's fine as long as he doesn't act like a weirdo. She then hits a home run, and raises her hand for a high five. Kazuya hesitates but finally joins her, and they high five. He even promises that he won't wash his hand. Chizuru says there is one more place she wants to go, and Kazuya imagines it might be a fancy dinner. Chizuru then takes him to the hospital, saying that her grandma wanted to see him. When they meet her, she welcomes Kazuya for visiting her. Chizuru then leaves to get fresh water for the flowers, and her grandmother asks Kazuya for a favor. He panics, thinking she has found out about their fake relationship. But she only asks him about Chizuru's play since she couldn't watch it herself. Kazuya happily tells her how amazing Chizuru was on stage. He also says Chizuru was a strong girl, but her grandmother laughs and says she has always been needy. As a child, whenever older kids made her cry, she would crawl into her bed saying she felt lonely. She explains that nobody is perfect and everyone makes mistakes, but accepting our weakness is what gives us the strength to move forward and find happiness. Since Kazuya admires Chizuru so much, it shows he has a kind heart. But Chizuru struggles to admit her weakness, so she hides behind a wall of ice. One day, she will need someone who can truly see her for who she is, and she begs Kazuya to be that person for Chizuru. Hearing this, Kazuya promises he will always love her, which makes her grandmother joke that now she can die in peace. Back at home, Kazuya still can't believe Chizuru is actually a needy girl, since she always helps others instead of asking for help. But if that's true, he wants to be the one to support her, even if he isn't her boyfriend. Suddenly, his doorbell rings, and he is surprised to see Chizuru standing there saying she lost her key. While Kazuya is thinking about what he should do, Chizuru enters his apartment. She explains that the landlord won't be back until tomorrow, and Kazuya thinks she has nowhere to go, so he wants to offer her to stay the night. Just as he is about to say it, Chizuru opens his balcony door, wanting to check if her own balcony is unlocked. She tries to peek and see if it is open, but as she struggles, she slips and Kazuya grabs her but to stop her from falling. Chizuru scolds him for touching her pumpkins, saying he could grab her waist instead. She tells him to let her go, but when he quickly lets her go, she loses her balance and they both fall over each other. While staring at her, Kazuya realizes how beautiful she is. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, which surprises them both. Kazuya quickly sneaks to his door, and when he checks, he sees Mami outside. He panics, and tells Chizuru to stay quiet. He decides to pretend that he is not home, but Mami notices the kitchen light and tries to check if the door is locked. Kazuya realizes he forgot to lock the door after Chizuru came in, so while panicking, he pulls Chizuru into the kitchen. Mami opens the door and calls for Kazuya. Since he doesn't answer, she wonders if he went shopping and forgot to lock the door. She stands there for a moment, but chooses not to enter, and ends up leaving. Chizuru decides to leave, but he stops her because he worries Mami might still be nearby, and she agrees. Meanwhile, Mami wonders if she should call Kazuya and remind him to lock his door. But then she remembers that she saw a purse in his apartment, which makes her think something is going on. As the room becomes quiet, Kazuya starts to wonder why Chizuru came to him, instead of going to her parents or friends. She then gets ready to leave, and Kazuya goes out first to check if Mami is still around. When they see the landlord has returned, Chizuru walks away from his room. Kazuya tells her that she can always ask him for help if she can't rely on her parents. Chizuru then reveals that her parents are gone, which surprises him. Her father left when she was young, and later her mother and grandfather passed away. The only family she has left is her grandmother, and she promised her that she would become an actress so her grandmother could see her on the screen. Kazuya tells her that he is lucky that his parents are still alive, and that he lived a carefree life without any plans for the future. To him, Chizuru is amazing because she works so hard to follow her dream, and he wants to support her and stay by her side forever. Chizuru answers that she can't say no, since she is his rental girlfriend. The next day, Kazuya accidentally runs into Chizuru at college. He panics, and tries to act like they don't know each other. But this time, she quietly says hi to him, which makes him happy. He feels like the happiest guy alive, while Mami is secretly watching. While working on the copies, Kazuya can't stop thinking about Chizuru. Suddenly, Mami shows up and greets him, which surprises him. She reveals that Chizuru is a rental girlfriend, but Kazuya isn't shocked and says that Chizuru already told him. Mami explains that she wanted to tell him earlier and even went to his place last night, but he was not home. Mami is also surprised that a service like rental girlfriend really exists. She then asks if he has fallen for Chizuru, but Kazuya quickly denies it. She holds his hand and says that he should find a real girlfriend instead of spending money on a rental one, and Kazuya agrees. When Mami leaves, Kazuya feels relieved, but he knows he must make sure she doesn't find out he is still renting Chizuru. Meanwhile, Mami notices how nervous he is, and she realizes it doesn't look like he only hired Chizuru once. She isn't sure if the bag belongs to Chizuru, but she knows there is something more between them. Ruka decides to cook dinner for Kazuya because it looks like he lost some weight, and as his girlfriend, she can't ignore it. At his apartment, Ruka tells him to sit and watch how cute she is while she cooks. She gives him a beer, but Kazuya refuses because he doesn't want to get drunk. Ruka takes it back but pours it into the curry, saying she forgot to buy cooking wine. When the curry is ready, they eat together, and Kazuya thinks it tastes amazing, which makes Ruka happy. They then watch TV together, and then Kazuya realizes that he enjoyed the night without paying her. Then he sees Ruka texting her mother that she will stay at his place. Kazuya panics and tries to make her leave, but when he opens the door, it is raining heavily. The news also says a typhoon is coming, and Ruka smiles. Since she got wet, Ruka puts on one of Kazuya's shirts. Kazuya still doesn't accept her staying over, but Ruka points out that all the trains stopped and he would not throw her out in the storm. Kazuya asks her to keep her voice down, so Chizuru will not hear from next door. Ruka gets annoyed that he still thinks of Chizuru. He goes to take a shower and wonders if he can survive the night. When he comes out, Ruka gives him a cup of hot chocolate and asks if something happened in the shower, which he denies. Later, Ruka reaches for her bag to show him a picture with her friends, but a rubber falls out, and Kazuya is shocked. He quickly turns off the lights, and chooses to sleep in the kitchen. After 30 minutes, Kazuya still cannot sleep. He feels something touching his back and realizes it is Ruka. Kazuya tries hard to control his devil inside him, and Ruka reminds him that she wants to take their relationship seriously, but she knows that she is not as attractive and mature as Chizuru. Feeling frustrated, Kazuya turns to her and says that she is very cute, but he doesn't think this is love. He is glad that a girl like her likes him, but he wants her to stay away tonight, so he doesn't make a mistake. Ruka quickly goes back to bed, but she is happy with what he said. The next morning, Kazuya hasn't slept at all, but he is glad he made it through the night. Ruka tells him she is happy with his words, and kisses him on the cheek. She then shouts at Chizuru's door, thanking Kazuya for the night, saying she will never forget it. As Ruka leaves, Kazuya sees there is no reaction from Chizuru's apartment and feels relieved, thinking she is still asleep. But in reality, Chizuru is inside with the trash in her hands, shocked by what she just heard. When Kazuya goes to take out the trash, he accidentally bumps into Chizuru, who is doing the same. He feels like she is acting more distant, but wonders if he's only imagining it. Kazuya tells her that he will rent her again next week, but Chizuru asks if Ruka will be fine since she stayed at his place. He realizes that Chizuru heard everything, and explains that nothing happened, saying she only stayed because of the storm. Chizuru doesn't believe him and says it is fine, telling him he doesn't need to lie. She then goes back to her apartment and tries to practice her acting lines, but she cannot focus because she keeps thinking about what Ruka said. Meanwhile, Kazuya wonders if he should rent her again and try to explain. He checks the rental app and notices that Chizuru's birthday is this week. He wants to repay her for the Christmas gift she gave him, but he is unsure of what to buy. So he decides to rent Sumi for help. He later meets up with Sumi, and plans to ask her about Chizuru at the end of their date. During the date, Kazuya keeps thinking about how cute and pretty Sumi is. They go to a clothing store, and Sumi picks out a hat for him. After he tries it on, she says he looks cool, and he decides to buy it. Soon after, Kazuya asks if she knows what present Chizuru might like for her birthday. Sumi suggests he should buy flowers, but Kazuya imagines the situation and feels it won't work. Sumi suddenly gets another idea, and takes him to the rooftop of the mall. Kazuya is confused, but decides to follow her. On the rooftop, he sees a kid hero show. At first, he doesn't understand what this has to do with a present, but after seeing Sumi enjoy it, he decides to watch as well. He becomes impressed by the Pink Hero's performance, and when the Pink Hero speaks, Kazuya realizes it is Chizuru's voice. He notices that Chizuru is taking another job besides rental girlfriend so she can reach her dream. After the show ends, Sumi gives him one last advice that he should give Chizuru something from his heart. Kazuya thanks her for the advice and says goodbye. Before leaving, Sumi stops him and asks when his birthday is. He says June 1st, which makes her smile before she leaves. Back at home, Chizuru feels tired and has no appetite for dinner. She then takes a shower and replies to some birthday messages from her friends. When she steps out from her balcony, she notices a paper bag with a note attached. She finds a note inside from Kazuya, wishing her a happy birthday. She opens her gift and sees a box of pickled plums, which she didn't expect it. She also finds another note, where Kazuya swears that nothing happened between him and Ruka. She thinks he is an idiot and eats one of the plums. Her mood changes, and she says the plum is sour. The next morning, Kazuya checks if Chizuru has taken his present. When he sees it is gone, he starts to wonder if she liked it. Chizuru then comes out on the balcony and seeing him there, Kazuya greets her good morning. He wonders again if she liked his present, and Chizuru suddenly thanks him for it. She says they were really good, which makes Kazuya feel excited. He also wants to explain about Ruka again, but Chizuru says he doesn't need to explain, as she believes him this time. Later, when Kazuya is out with his friends, Kibei asks how things are going with Chizuru and even asks how she is in bed since they have been together for a year. Not wanting to embarrass himself, Kazuya says she is amazing, and Kibei jokingly tells him to die. Kibei then invites Kazuya to join them and meet another group for drinks, and he agrees. When they arrive at the restaurant, Kazuya is shocked to see Chizuru there. He panics but decides to act normal so no one becomes suspicious. They order some drinks, and the girls mention that Chizuru just turned 20 last week, which means she can now legally drink. As they start to drink, the boys notice that Chizuru is quiet. The girls explain that she is shy and never drinks with guys unless she is tricked, which makes the boys nervous. When her friends call her Chizuru, Kibei notices that Kazuya's girlfriend has the same name, and Kazuya panics and says it is only a coincidence. Kibei also remembers that Kazuya's girlfriend had a birthday last week, and the girls ask what he gave her. Kazuya feels awkward since it was only pickled plums. Then one of Chizuru's drunk friends takes off her glasses, exposing her face. She quickly covers it, and Kazuya worries that they will recognize her as Mizuhara Chizuru, but since everyone is too drunk, they don't notice. As the group starts to play a drinking game, Chizuru and her friend lose and are forced to drink. Seeing her drink, Kazuya feels she is only doing it to keep the mood going, but he knows if she keeps drinking, she will get drunk and may reveal her identity. When the next round begins, Kazuya purposely makes a mistake, so Chizuru doesn't need to drink anymore. He keeps losing on purpose several times, which makes everyone laugh at how bad he is at the game. After the game, Kazuya feels sick and decides to go home. He tries to walk straight, but his legs feel too weak to move. Chizuru suddenly comes beside him and helps him. As she walks him back, Kazuya feels pathetic because he can't go home by himself. Chizuru asks for his apartment key, but Kazuya insists on doing it himself, yet he cannot put the key in. Chizuru unlocks the door for him, and Kazuya barely makes it inside. Feeling sick, he heads to the bathroom to throw up. Chizuru decides to stay and help him, but he tells her that she can go and that he is fine. She knows he drank on purpose to protect her, and Kazuya admits that he is always a burden to her, but this time he wanted to look out for her. Chizuru stays with him, rubbing his back as he throws up. Kazuya tries to stand, but he passes out and falls on top of her. She tries to scold him, but sees he's asleep, so she lets him rest for a while. The next day, Kazuya wakes up with a bad hangover. He doesn't really remember what happened last night, but he recalls some moments with Chizuru and wonders if she took care of him. When he checks his phone, he sees he has been added to a group chat with everyone who drank last night. He also notices that Chizuru is in it with her private number, not the rental girlfriend account. He gets very excited, but also worries that if he adds her as a friend, she might block him. When he opens his fridge, he finds a drink that she left for him, and realizes that she really did take care of him last night. Meanwhile, Chizuru looks at her phone and wonders if she should add Kazuya's private number as a friend. Back at work, Ruka keeps staring at Kazuya and asks if he has something to say to her. Kazuya has no idea what she means, and Ruka explains that after what happened the other day, Chizuru will no longer be between them. Kazuya tells her it is fine, because Chizuru believed him when he said nothing happened between them. Ruka is surprised and realizes that for Chizuru to trust him like that, they must have grown closer. Suddenly, a customer walks in, and Kazuya is shocked to see Mami. He wonders why she came, and she says she uses the karaoke room to study. Ruka asks if he knows her, and while panicking, he says they are classmates in college. Not wanting them to talk, he quickly takes Mami to her room. When Ruka hears Mami call him Kazukuin, she starts to get suspicious. Ruka then asks Mami about her relationship with him, and Mami says they are just classmates and asks why she wants to know. She then guesses that Ruka likes Kazuya. Ruka says it is more than that and almost calls herself his girlfriend, but Kazuya interrupts, saying the boss doesn't allow chatting. Ruka wonders why he is hiding it, and then realizes Mami must be his ex. She thinks Mami still acts like Kazuya belongs to her, and she worries that maybe she is only the third choice after Chizuru and Mami. Kazuya tries to take Ruka outside, but she runs back in and tells Mami she is Kazuya's girlfriend. She insists that Kazuya belongs to her now and says Mami should not think she is special for being his first. Ruka even says she spent the night at his place and that he could not stop saying he loved her. She tells Mami she is just part of his past and should leave. Mami apologizes but asks why, if he has a real girlfriend, he still needs a rental girlfriend. Ruka says she accepts him because she knows she is his number one, and Kazuya says it is only for research. Mami apologizes again and decides to leave. On her way home, Mami still doesn't believe Kazuya has a girlfriend. She remembers that the bag she saw was not for someone like Ruka, but for an adult woman. As the train doors slide open, she's surprised to see Chizuru step in, carrying the exact same bag. She invites Chizuru to sit next to her and asks if she lives nearby. Chizuru says she just had something to do there. Mami compliments her bag and asks how long she has had it. Chizuru says she has had it for a while, and Mami laughs. Before they part ways, Mami asks if she has stopped seeing Kazuya, and Chizuru says yes. Later that night, Mami is convinced that the bag belongs to Chizuru. She believes that Kazuya and Chizuru are more than just rental girlfriend and client. But she still cannot figure out Ruka. To check more, she looks at Kazuya's Twitter and finds a tweet from his grandma. So she decides to follow her. Meanwhile, Kazuya realizes he hasn't rented Chizuru for some time, so he opens the app. He sees she has moved up from rookie to regular class. He feels proud of her, until he sees her fee went up by 1,000 yen, which makes him even more broke. Kazuya doesn't mind paying more for her, but he starts thinking that if he pays more, he should also plan something special. He usually goes on simple dates with her, but now he convinces himself that they should do something different. The next day, Chizuru shows up in a school uniform, and Kazuya gets very excited. He wonders if it is really okay, and Chizuru explains that some clients also ask her to wear a school uniform on dates. They go to Tokyo Dome City, and when Chizuru asks about their date plan, Kazuya gets too distracted looking at her because she looks like the perfect schoolgirl. Kazuya decides to be greedier and asks her to hold his hand, something he always wanted to do with a girlfriend. Chizuru then gives him her hand, which Kazuya instantly holds it. It seems his dream date has just begun. He then asks if she wants churros, and she says yes. He orders only one on purpose, hoping they can share like a couple. Chizuru asks if he wants a bite, and Kazuya quickly says yes. He eagerly takes the first bite, then sees her take one as well, and feels as if he could die happy. As they walk inside the shopping mall, Chizuru suddenly sees Sumi, who is shopping alone. She quickly grabs Kazuya's hand and runs with him like they are students escaping from school. They end up in the arcade, and Chizuru feels relieved that Sumi didn't see them. Kazuya invites her to a photo booth since they don't have any pictures together, and Chizuru agrees. Kazuya is unsure whether to choose the friend plan or couple plan, but Chizuru picks the couple option and says they are a couple right now. The booth asks them to make a heart with their hands, then to hold hands in a cute pose, and then to lean close. Next, the booth asks them to face each other and hug. Kazuya panics that it might be too much, but Chizuru opens her arms and tells him to hug her. As she tries to hug him, he becomes extremely nervous as he can feel her soft melons. Then the booth asks for a passionate kiss, which Kazuya knows it's impossible. Chizuru makes animal shapes with her hands and suggests they let their hands kiss instead. After taking the pictures, Kazuya gets excited to see the photos, but Chizuru suddenly notices two girls wearing the same school uniform as hers. She quickly grabs his hand again, and they run away before he can get the photos. Chizuru suggests they go on the Ferris wheel, since no one will find them there. Before getting on, they take a picture together, which makes Kazuya wonder why. Inside the cabin, Kazuya goes quiet because he doesn't know where to look. Chizuru then notices a concert below and invites him to look from her side. When he leans closer, he tries not to touch her, carefully keeping his distance. He tries not to move, but the cabin shakes, and he loses his balance. His hand accidentally touches her soft melon, and both of them are shocked. She panics and slaps him, then quickly apologizes to him. He says it's fine since he just lost his balance, but deep down, he's still wondering what that soft thing was. When the ride ends, the staff offers their photo for 1,000 yen, and Kazuya quickly accepts. As they are about to leave, Chizuru tells him that another producer has contacted her, and now she is rehearsing with them. Kazuya feels excited for her and says he will come watch her play. Chizuru tells him her role is small, but if things keep going well, she will have to stop being a rental girlfriend, which Kazuya accepts. On his way home, he feels happy because he got his dream date with Chizuru, and he cannot stop thinking about her play. As she gets closer to her dream, Kazuya wonders what he can do for her until that day comes. Kazuya's grandmother calls to ask if they should celebrate his birthday tomorrow. She then asks about Chizuru's birthday, but when Kazuya says it already passed, his grandma gets angry and feels bad for forgetting her future granddaughter-in-law's birthday again. She decides they will have a joint birthday party and tells Kazuya to bring Chizuru no matter what. While Chizuru is doing yoga, Kazuya calls her from the balcony and asks if she is free tomorrow at 5. Chizuru says she can't come because she has to visit her grandmother in the hospital. Kazuya understands and says he will make an excuse, but Chizuru says she can come after 6. Later that night, Kazuya gets a phone call from Ruka, who pops party crackers and wishes him a happy birthday. She knows she can't see him on his birthday, but he promised they would spend Sunday together. Ruka says she doesn't mind him celebrating with his family as long as Chizuru isn't there. Kazuya gets nervous and tries to explain, but Ruka hangs up, leaving him worried. The next morning, Ruka shows up at his door, wanting to go with him to his family home. When they arrive, Kazuya tells his grandmother that Chizuru will come later, and she welcomes Ruka kindly. She gives a gift to his family, saying it's also a special day because Kazuya was born, which impresses his grandmother. Kazuya quietly reminds her that his family thinks Chizuru is his girlfriend. Ruka smiles, and says she'll win his grandmother's heart. So she starts helping around and acting very sweet to everyone, trying to impress them. As it's getting late, Kazuya's grandmother asks when Chizuru will arrive, and tells him to call her. He goes outside, worried that Ruka might actually win everyone's hearts, but he can't call Chizuru unless he adds her as a friend. He can't bring himself to do it, so he goes back and says he couldn't reach her. His grandmother feels a bit sad, but admits that Ruka is a kind girl. Ruka tells her that she reminds her of her grandmother who passed away last year. His grandmother feels touched and says Ruka is always welcome like family. Ruka tries to say she is the one who truly loves Kazuya, but before she can finish, Kazuya gets a call from Chizuru. He quickly gives the phone to his grandmother, and Chizuru apologizes for being late because her grandmother isn't feeling well. His grandmother says it's okay and they can celebrate another day. Kazuya then goes outside to talk with her and asks if it's fine to use her personal number. Chizuru says it's fine since everyone in the group chat already added each other. He tells her she doesn't need to come because his grandmother is already happy to hear her voice. Suddenly, Ruka grabs his phone and tells Chizuru not to come since his family already loves her. She says she'll make Kazuya hers tonight and hangs up. Chizuru worries that Ruka might tell them the truth about her being a rental girlfriend. She tells her grandmother she was supposed to visit Kazuya's family for a birthday party. Her grandmother suddenly feels better and tells her to go. Chizuru agrees and takes a taxi to his house. When she finally arrives, Kazuya's grandmother runs to hug her, calling her an angel. Ruka feels jealous and wonders if Chizuru likes him, but she still believes she has already won. Kazuya's grandmother invites Chizuru to sit, but she first asks to pay her respects at the family altar. Everyone is surprised, and his grandmother gets emotional. Ruka realizes she didn't think of that and knows Chizuru is turning things around. They sit together, and when Kazuya's mother asks where she lives, Chizuru says she lives near Kazuya. His grandmother suggests they should live together, which makes him panic. Chizuru explains that she wants to stay independent and not rely on him too much. Kazuya goes to the bathroom, relieved that his grandmother is happy again and Ruka has calmed down. As he walks by Ruka, she suddenly grabs him by the tie, pulls him close, and kisses him. After some time, Kazuya asks her to stop, and Ruka quickly steps back, apologizing for going too far. She admits that she did it because she didn't want to lose to Chizuru and didn't want to regret anything. Not long after, Kazuya goes back to the others, and Chizuru notices something feels off between him and Ruka, but he quickly acts like nothing happened. Kazuya's grandmother suddenly remembers she has a gift for Chizuru. She takes out a ring box and explains it was her engagement ring, and now she wants Chizuru to have it. Kazuya starts to panic, as Chizuru doesn't know what to say. Ruka grabs Kazuya's shirt, and he can feel how hurt she is inside. He knows he can't let this continue and wants to stop it. Just as he's about to explain that he and Chizuru already broke up, Chizuru's phone rings. The hospital informs her that her grandmother has lost consciousness, which makes her panic right away. They quickly rush to the hospital, and feel relieved when they see her grandmother is fine. She apologizes for ruining their party, but Kazuya's grandmother says she is the one who should be sorry for inviting Chizuru when she should have been with her. She says it's fine, because Chizuru wanted to attend so badly that she would have skipped her funeral to come. Kazuya is shocked to hear how much Chizuru wanted to be there. The doctor then tells Chizuru that her grandmother's condition is getting worse, and she doesn't have much time left. When Kazuya returns from buying food, he sees Chizuru walking out from the doctor's room. He can tell something is bothering her and asks what's wrong. When she tells him everything, he decides to tell her grandmother the truth about their fake relationship before it's too late. But Chizuru stops him and says she doesn't want her grandmother to know. Since her grandmother likes Kazuya, she would only worry that Chizuru will be alone after she is gone. Even if their relationship is a lie, Chizuru believes it is better for her grandmother to think she has someone. As their visiting hours end, Kazuya's grandmother takes out the ring and guesses that Chizuru's grandmother doesn't have much time. She gives the ring to Chizuru and tells her to keep it, and if one day she needs money, she can sell it. As they return to their room, Kazuya knows Chizuru is trying to act strong, but he can see the sadness in her eyes, and it hurts him because he can't do anything to comfort her. The next day, Ruka asks about Chizuru's grandmother, and Kazuya explains her condition isn't good. Ruka wonders if Chizuru is having a hard time, and Kazuya says she is trying to hide it, but he knows she must be in pain. Ruka then says she'll give it a rest for now, since Chizuru is going through a hard time. But she smiles and says she's happy she got to kiss the person she loves, and tells him if he ever wants another kiss, he can come to her. Later, Chizuru calls Kazuya on the balcony and tells him that Sumi wants his help again to practice, and he agrees. Soon after, he meets up with Sumi, but she shows up in a school uniform, which surprises him. As they walk together, Kazuya apologizes for dressing casually, but Sumi says it is fine because she thinks he likes a girl with school uniforms. He realizes that she must have seen him and Chizuru dating in uniforms before, and when Sumi confirms it, he feels embarrassed. They arrive at the aquarium, and Kazuya wonders if Chizuru told her that he likes fish. Sumi explains that she wants to be his guide for the day, which surprises him. They go inside the aquarium and spend time trying out many attractions, and Kazuya notices that Sumi has improved a lot. Then they watch the dolphin show, which Kazuya has always wanted to see. He sits down, but Sumi tells him to move back because the front rows get splashed. During the show, Kazuya is amazed by the dolphins, but at the end, the dolphin splashes water to them and they get soaked, and Sumi ends up even wetter than him. Sumi apologizes for failing as his guide, but Kazuya laughs and says this is the best part of the show and that he's having a great time. He even calls her cute and tells her she's a great guide. When he looks for a shirt to buy, Sumi quietly says she likes him, but Kazuya doesn't hear it. She quickly tells him that they should move on to the next event. After changing into their new outfit, Kazuya finds another perfect place to end their date. He notices there are many couples around, and Sumi blushes a lot, which must feel awkward for her as a rental girlfriend. Sumi moves closer to Kazuya and gives him a birthday present, which surprises him since he never thought she'd actually remember. It turns out to be a summer knit hat, and he really likes it. He realizes that Sumi has improved a lot, while he is still stuck with his own problems. Later, Kazuya tells Sumi about his friend who's taking care of her sick grandmother and she has no one else to rely on. She tries to act strong, but he knows she must be really sad. As he talks about how strong she is, he starts crying because he feels helpless. Kazuya apologizes for saying it, but then sees that Sumi is also crying. She tells him she understands his feelings and is there for him. Kazuya then continues crying together with Sumi. At the end of the date, Kazuya walks Sumi to the train station. He then notices a poster about crowdfunding, and starts to believe that he has found a new way to help Chizuru. In the meantime, Chizuru gets news from the doctor that her grandma's condition is getting worse because she has started eating less. She begins to feel worried, thinking she might never appear in a film before her grandma passes away. She hopes to at least tell her that she passed an audition, but she fails again. Looking at her grandpa's photo, she wonders what else she can do to reach her dream. 7 years ago, when Chizuru was in 7th grade, she wasn't very close to her grandparents and often argued with them. During her free time, she liked going to the library and used her pocket money to watch movies. She already knew her grandmother used to be an actress, and she admired the people she saw on the big screen. One day, while looking for something to watch, she came across her grandma's old film. When she showed it to her, her grandma felt embarrassed. When they watched it together, Chizuru couldn't stop admiring her and was amazed by how great her grandma was in that film. One day, Chizuru told her grandparents that she wanted to become an actress. Her grandma warned her it would not be easy, but her grandpa immediately supported her and promised to see her shine on the big screen.
Encouraged by his words, Chizuru promised them that she would do her best. From that day on, she worked so hard to chase her dream of becoming an actress. But one day, while he was on his way to pick her up, a truck ran a red light and crashed into his car. Chizuru rushed to the hospital, and her grandmother told her he was still in surgery. Not knowing what else to do, she went to a shrine and prayed hard for him, climbing the stairs 100 times as she begged God to save his life. When she returned to the hospital, her grandmother said the surgery went well, but her grandpa had brain trauma. Chizuru reminded him of his words, that if you keep wishing, dreams can come true. As his hand slowly moved a little, he whispered those words to her one last time before leaving her forever. Back in the present, Chizuru looks at his photo and wonders if he lied to her. She feels that dreams don't come true and begs him to stop saying those words. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and it turns out to be Kazuya. He comes in and shows her a crowdfunding site on his laptop. He explains they could make a film starring her, since many people have done it before and it only takes a month to shoot. He even says they can rent a theater screen so her grandma can watch it. Kazuya tells her he wants to make the film with her, but Chizuru says she needs time to think. Back at his place, Kazuya wonders what she's thinking. He studies more about crowdfunding and learns that 70% of projects succeed every year. He calculates that it would take around a month and a half to raise money and another month to film and edit. He knows her grandma doesn't have much time, but he believes they should try. Then his doorbell rings again, and it's Chizuru. She asks if he can really do it because she doesn't want to waste the time her grandma has left. Kazuya says he can. While holding back her tears, Chizuru agrees and asks him to make it happen so her grandmother can see her act. Kazuya promises he will do it no matter what. From that moment, Kazuya spends all his time working on the project, and Chizuru is moved by how much effort he puts in. Will Kazuya keep his promise and help Chizuru shine on the screen, or is it just another dream? That's a wrap. Thank you for watching.